is, from the very get-go, it was very user-friendly, very simple to use, very intuitive. Once you got in there, it was very, very clear. And that's exactly what we wanted from a software, that we wanted to be able to scroll through many, many students and quickly get an impression of things. And it did that very, very well. That Athena have allowed the product to develop with us. It's evolved, and it's evolved in a very pragmatic, very focused way for us. And we've been really delighted with that. What we were doing for academic tracking before was a combination of Excel sheets that we were putting together ourselves, and just a kind of an ad hoc sort of a glance through results. The real quality analysis wasn't there, and human nature means that you tended to focus on really the top end and see how great they're doing, and on the bottom end, and really maybe even 60% of the students who fitting into that middle band weren't popping out. Their issues weren't as apparent the way we were doing it. We used to have more student interaction pre-COVID, and it's more difficult now for a year ahead to start meeting students one-to-one, start to kind of talk to groups of students. So I suppose data then allows them to really focus their attention. Having meaningful data and meaningful analysis allows them to really focus their attention on where it's needed. So if anything, now it's going to really come into its own, if you ask me. Yeah, I think so. Okay, well, it's been a great experience, I have to say. We started talking to you very early on about what we saw as a need that we had, especially as a large school, that we really needed some more systematic way of looking at this. And that we felt that now, our own attempt to kind of produce something were falling short. We didn't have the expertise needed. But secondly, I suppose really we felt that now out there in the marketplace there must be people who could do this, who could produce something meaningful for us. So the time was right. So that's when we approached yourself and started to try to explain what our needs were, and to really focus and narrow those down into the beginnings of it, you know. As we've identified more clearly from using it what we actually needed in more detail, the software has evolved to actually meet those needs. Mm-hmm. And it has become, if anything, much clearer and much more intuitive than it was at the beginning, giving much more detail as well, if you want that detail. And I suppose being able to look at things in a macro and micro sense within the software, that's really evolved very, very well now. Absolutely, I mean, working remotely with Athena has been a breeze. In the majority of the interaction we would have had prior to this were probably remote anyway, but that's convenient for us and for you in a lot of ways. So it has not been an obstacle to the effectiveness of the software for us at all. No, it's worked really, really well. We trained in just a select group of teachers, specifically our year heads and assistant year heads and the senior management of the school. And they all came away from that feeling that they were comfortable with using the software. And we left the door open to say, well, if you had any difficulties, come back to us, come back to me, and I'll see, can I help you through it? And they've not knocked on the door. So in other words, following the training, they were all well capable of using it. Like I said, it's quite an intuitive system, and you can poke around there yourselves and see what you want to find. So the training certainly did everything. Customer support has been great. I mean, there have been times where we have needed, I suppose, support that would be particular to our organisation, and we've managed to get that from you. We're not meant a lot. There's been times when we mightn't have had the time to do an upload, but we needed the results, and we've been able to facilitate it in that way. So the customer support has been really, really great. Couldn't fault it. I suppose I can think of a specific example of a particular student who I suppose was drifting along, and this would be quite common that you get a student, a male student, who was drifting along, and we hadn't taken much notice until Athena made him stick out, because Athena takes his baseline abilities that have been measured and monitored, and it kind of sets expectations for that student. So this, Athena highlighted for us a huge gap between his attainment, which kind of kept his head above water, but he was achieving nothing like what he should have been doing. And to have that and have reason to follow up with that student, to have it propounded as an obvious anomaly, to be able to follow up with that student. So we were able to meet that student, meet his parents and discuss why he wasn't really attaining the level he was, and to address some issues, and just, I suppose, really to encourage him. And I suppose eventually the student realises, well, actually I am being tracked, I am being monitored, and I need to kind of maybe pull up my socks if that's the case, or maybe it's just the case that somebody cares enough to notice and they talk to me about the reasons why I'm not performing. So I have one student, two students in particular, where that has happened in the last couple of years, and for those alone it's been worthwhile. One other service we found really good has been the results analysis, that we had previous providers and we found that we were getting well, I suppose a slower response, but also we're getting a whole pile of data which really we didn't need. And while Athena will give you all the data that you want, they were very much open to listen to us as to what actually was useful to us as a school, and I suppose to some degree paring it down in some areas and increasing the data we got in certain other areas. So now we have a feedback data from our results analysis, which is pretty much exactly what we want. And that, that's really great to get. That we want something from you in terms of results analysis, and that's exactly what we're getting. And I don't doubt that if we changed our mind tomorrow and needed something more or something less or something, we would probably get that too. That's been really good.